Paris. Welcome to Macro Magic. Today I have with me Dr. Erik Peper from the University of San Francisco State University, School of Holistic Medicine, and he's written this recent book on tech stress. And I had reviewed it recently and just was really amazed to learn all the multitude of problems that are developing across the country with people who are working too long on their computer or being on their cell phone most of the day. So welcome, Erik. So nice to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel so honored to share this information.
I was so impressed with the amount of studies and research, and you've already co-authored so many other books. And we were just talking earlier about how in line you are with, supporting healthy eating habits, looking at low blood sugar, for instance, and we were talking about hangry, which is a combination of being angry and hungry at the same time when your blood sugar level drops. And it's also important that it ties into, just staying well and vibrant and physically active during this really strange time we're going through, where everyone's on the computer, Zooming on their cell phones. So can you give us a little bit of pointers as to why these problems are arising, where they come from, and then what we can do about them?
Yes, so most of us are just sitting, ever since the pandemic, behind the computer, and even before. When we watch at the computer, we are captured by the screen. When we look at our cell phone, we collapse downward. We become almost immobilized, and we just sit and sit. And if you tie this together again, even if the food is the foundation for which we start. It's like building a house. If you have a very good foundation, it can buffet the storms and winds easily. But if the food structure is poor, our bodies are just more difficult, and we have much more at risk. It breaks down earlier. So now we sit in front of the computer, and as we sit in front of the computer, we sit and we don't move. That means that our blood sugar levels, even if it's high, the body does not use it to fight, flight, or run away. In the past, what happened is that we would just be walking, and then we would be searching for food. We look for a predator, we react, and then we would recover. And now we just sit. And possibly to give that experience, what happens in the body, let me guide you through a little exercise. What I'd like you to do is just imagine you're holding your mouse with your right hand. Just hold it. And then you're using this mouse. Now I'd like you to draw your street address, the letters of your street address with the mouse. So you're drawing it. So my street address would be Derby Street. I would start with the letter D. I would draw the letter D with the mouse. Then I click it. The next letter, I do this. I keep doing this. And so now we start drawing, but make each letter as small as possible, like a ½ inch. And as you're drawing this letter, just do it right now and then click. Then the next letter, do it quicker and quicker. Do it quicker yet. And if you keep doing this, what you observe is you held your breath, or you shallow breathe. You don't know you did that. Your shoulders tightened. You didn't know you did that. You may have even been concentrating more. You didn't know you did that.
And at the end of the day,
you're fatigued, because if we just sit, it is almost counter-natural. Our bodies are designed through evolution to rest, very important, and to move. And so if there's anything, the simplest rule would be move, get up and move just for a moment. So as you're sitting here and watching the show, just get up for a moment and just move. I don't care what you do, just move. Just for an instant. And as you do that, especially when you look up, you find your energy just went up a tiny bit. And you have also completed that alarm reaction. Let me repeat that, what I said. When we are watching a screen, something happens and we react to it. You're captured. You don't want to miss it. This is really our evolutionary survival pattern. When walking through the savannah, through the jungle, I see something on the side. I better react to it. It can be friend or foe. It can be food. However, if I don't react, I would not survive. That same process occurs while we're sitting at the computer.
Oh,
So we
gosh.
stay on guard and we have no time to rest.
And especially late at night, looking into that bright camera of your phone, I think it would really damage your
Well,
eyes.
yes, at night, there are two parts that happen. One, the screen radiates blue light at your eyes. We don't know it because we see all the colors. However, the blue light suppresses the melatonin, which then interferes with sleep. Then we get captured by our series we're watching, or on our cell phone, we better check for our next appointment. We better check, what is my social network doing? Again, a survival mechanism from thousands, millions of years ago. I need to know what people are doing to survive, whether they're to know where friends are, family is. However, that activates me. I worry. And so it affects my pattern while going to sleep. So instead of going to sleep rested with a quieter brain, less emotional involvement, I'm all stirred up, and then the blue light suppressed the melatonin. It's more difficult to go to sleep. I may have more disturbed sleep. And then the final part, when I'm watching, it's very hard when you're watching a series to only watch one episode. You go to the next one and the next one, and then you keep sitting and sitting, and you collapse more on this lazy couch or chair. I do that too. But notice what happened to my posture. I became like a letter C. My head sits forward. And what I forget when I do that is that my abdomen gets suppressed, compressed. Think about it. When you're walking and talking, walking outside and standing, then your waist or belt is often perfectly okay, not too constricting. Now you go to a restaurant or you have a nice, delicious meal at home and you start eating, and all of a sudden you find my belt is too tight. I undo the upper buttons and I have an expansion. But think of what happens. This means that when I'm sitting, and the more I become like a letter C, and you can almost see it, that the distance from your chin to your weight to your hips almost starts decreasing as my back curves. That means my abdomen is compressed more and more. It affects digestion. It really affects our health. It affects our breathing. It means I have to breathe more shallowly in my chest. And as I do that, I almost increase the risk of getting more anxious. And the body posture itself really encourages depression. We have no idea this happens. Look at anyone around us, our family members, at our cell phone. I collapse, I look, I become depressed. That's exaggerated.
It's interesting that you say that, because so many coworkers I know have been complaining about depression. Just sitting is the new smoking. So anytime you're sitting and not being active and not getting enough oxygen, that is going to trigger depression.
Well, it's even more than that. Because think about it when we feel exhausted or tired or depressed, if that's our history. We are really putting ourselves in a defeated position. Think of a dog. When a dog is powerful and optimistic, it is up. Its head is up. Its tail is wiggling. And then it meets another dog. It is submissive. It collapses. When you collapse that way, you don't know you're doing it, or slouch that way, it not just only affects the body, it affects your emotion, it affects your thinking. Because in a way, when I collapse, I have to only deal with immediate survival. I have to be protective, please. That means I cannot think as easily about abstract thoughts. And when we do a simple study with our students at San Francisco State, and we actually have published, all you do is you have the students sit collapsed, or the other part sits up and looks up. That's all. Very simple. They do this for like 30 seconds. And in each condition, they do the similar task. Subtract the number 13 or the number 7 from 134 sequentially. So if I did the number 7, 134, then in my mind's eye, 127, 120, and keep going backwards that way. That's all you do. And now you ask the people, how difficult was it? It makes no difference, really, if they're math majors or not. But we see across the board that when you sit in a collapsed position, it's just harder to do this kind of abstract mental math. It's really stereotypic threat.
Well, if you study the
Unknowingly, I'm
chakras
afraid.
too, yeah, the energy has to move through you. And
Correct.
you know, if you study all the
It affects your
chakras and
thinking.
meridians, and if you're sitting collapsed, the energy is not going to move through. It's going to be blocked.
Yes, and all you can do is be defensive. The only people, that's what's most interesting, the only students for who posture made no difference, which is only a small group, were the ones who had absolutely no fear of performance in class, couldn't care less about math. They felt very confident. For them, they could be collapsed or sitting up. For everybody else who has just a slight worry, there was a specific effect. You know, this is so important for us because we almost all collapse sitting at the computer and we don't know it.
Right. I remember, Eric, people would come into my job as a guidance counselor and they'd rearrange my desk and make it so I would sit up straight and the computer was eye level. I know there's tons of studies about, you know, changing that whole position of your computer and the way your chair works. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that can
Absolutely.
really help?
But I want to tie it to the cooking as well, because I think people know this. If I'm a chef or at home, if I am very petite, then all my kitchen counters are too high. And it means when I have to chop onions or whatever it is, I have to raise my shoulder and chop. Luckily for most of us, we don't do this for hours. However, if I do this for a little while, I'll get tightness in my neck and shoulders. The way to solve that is to either stand on a platform to make it the appropriate height or lower the table. I'll never forget visiting two friends of mine. They're psychiatrists. They're both less than 5 feet. There must be, one is 4 feet 8, unbelievably small people. They invited me for dinner at their house. They made this most delicious meal. I have never been so uncomfortable. Not because of the food. I walked into their house, a very nice house, and then I sat on their couch, and my knees literally came to my nose almost. What happened is, they had bought a regular couch. They had removed the legs of the couch. So the couch was much smaller.
Oh.
And that is what we forget. The key of ergonomics is to adapt the world to you and not you to the world.
That's a
You
good
want to be able to
point.
listen to yourself.
That's a very good point. We're going to break for commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to you more about all the tech stress that you can develop on your iPhone or at your computer and some of the remedies that you're suggesting that we all consider.
A great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
Welcome back to Macro Magic. I have with me Dr. Erik Peper from San Francisco State University, and we were talking about tech stress and how being on your iPhone and your computer can create all sorts of physical and emotional problems. And I think breathing is one of them, as well as good diet, good breathing, good diet, good posture. We have some photos that you have sent in. I know that you're an expert biofeedback specialist. So this is showing a biofeedback graph, I guess?
Yeah, so this is probably the one where you see this the young woman with the graphs going along. And here you see somebody, and this happens for every one of us. Well, you can never say everyone, but probably 98% of us. When we sit in front of a computer, we bring our hands on, we let our hands be on our lap. We measure the muscle tension on our shoulders. That would be the red and the green line, the lower two lines. And if you look at the left side of that graph, you see the lines are low. Then we ask the person just to bring their hands to the keyboard and rest. Many of us do that when we're just looking at the screen, we're just resting. And you can see the line goes up. The red and green line goes slightly up. That's their shoulders and forearm. The person says, I am relaxed. However, the physiology says you're not.
Oh, wow.
Now she is asked to start typing and do data entry, and she does. And you can see how the lines really go very much up. It's important because you could not press the keys without using the forearm muscles. That's okay. However, the shoulders stay up, and the person is unaware. That's the underlying piece. The person is unaware the shoulders are up. And second, if you looked at that line, it doesn't go down while she is working.
Wow.
It stays up. That is the real problem with much of us when we work. We are consistently being activated without recovery. And then if you go to the upper two lines of that measures the breathing in the chest, the upper part and the movement a little bit lower, you see the line rapidly initially. At the beginning on the left side, the line is slow. That means the person is going inhaling and exhaling. The line goes very slow. Now she starts working, and now it's very rapid. She's almost like hyperventilating, shallow breathing. And that puts the person more at risk. And now at that moment, if your blood sugar level was very low, then after a while you would start probably feeling anxious as well. Except you have no idea about that.
Not only that, Erik, the radiation from the computer and the phones, I mean, being around that 24/7, actually people have gotten, like little radiation burns on their hands and things like that. So that, I'm sure, contributes to them physically.
Yes, I think we are totally unaware of the electromagnetic radiation, of the impact. I know that is not the statement of the cell phone companies or computers, but if you read the manual, with every cell phone it says, don't put it against your body. And I highly recommend for everybody to take the precautionary principle. If you're using a cell phone, use the Bluetooth earphones, use the speaker phone to at least keep it a distance away, and don't put it next to your pillow. It's like, at night. Put it out of your room. Turn all the bright lights off, all these charging lights, turn them off so that can promote sleep, because the light hitting the eyes interrupts sleep.
Also, don't put it on your lap. I know that's been an issue.
Absolutely. Don't put it at cells that replicate very quickly, or even stick it in your bra. Many of the students have done. There's some evidence for very few of them. It's always very few, but they may be the canary in the mine, the old statement of getting the carbon monoxide poisoning, that they have developed breast cancer. It's very rare, but I think, why wait till it's proven totally? Be protective, and you can have options. To me, that is the important part.
Right. And you and I were talking about, in your book, you had mentioned that the brain doesn't register between reality and what's untrue. So oftentimes seeing photos maybe on social media or misinterpreting bullying incidences online for young teenage girls and boys that, becomes a reality to them. And that's another real danger.
It is a reality. Remember, till the late 19th century, everything we saw, everything we heard was real. So we have no evolutionary mechanism to say what comes into the retina is not real. So today, we watch something on a screen, we say intellectually, that isn't real. Our bodies react totally as if it is real. For most people, I know there are always exceptions in their reactions. Almost everyone, if they watch a horror movie at night or they hear on the news about some danger around, then the moment they go outside at night and they hear footsteps behind them or whatever, they really are still affected by what they saw, and they assume those footsteps are now that danger.
Yeah. It's like your emotions are trailing after what you've seen and you don't realize it.
That's right. So the other part is that what we see on television or on any media, our brain is really wired to look for a group of about 150 people, or maybe 200, our clan. But now we get the news not from this clan, from 360 million or 340 million Americans. So if something happens somewhere, it becomes a graphic description, and I see it on the screen. My brain really experiences it as it's in my own little personal group. That's why storytelling is so powerful.
And news. I mean, if you think about it, they're looking for all the negative stories. So they're going to come up with tons and tons of stories that will depress you to the max. So you've got to, take some time away from social media, away from the news, get outside, get in nature, walk, breathe, read some books. Definitely get into the sunlight. They say the morning sunlight is the most healing sunlight.
And I would say, if you go outside or do movements, always look up for a moment. Look up. It's in the spiritual traditions. It's in the subjective experience. Look up, or the world is a downer. The language is there. It does represent our emotional energy experiences. So the key really is, what can we do about all this? So let me do one little experience, if that's okay. What happens in the body unknowingly when we get captured by the computers. Any mom or dad knows, if their children who are playing computer games, they're playing, and then the parent will say, Jim, or whatever the name is, it's time for dinner. And the child says, in a moment. And a half an hour passes, and the child is still captured by the game and the computer. And we freeze in that body position. Our bodies are not made to freeze. So, for example, do a little exercise to experience what happens. Just lift your knee just about an inch up, so the foot is away from the floor, your right knee. Just lift it and hold it there. Note that when you did this, you probably start to hold your breath for a moment. You can start feeling the ache and discomfort slowly building up in the hip. You don't even know it, but it's starting probably. That's enough, let it go. What is interesting is this is a very short time. These muscles are now held contracted. It reduces the blood flow through it. Can't get rid of the waste products, and we develop discomfort. On the other hand, Most of us, unless we have a hip problem or knee problem, we could walk for miles and we're using the same muscles for walking. They tighten, but on the swing, they relax and they tighten. And now just observe yourself when you're using your cell phone. You sit there, you look, the head is forward. For the spine, it means it's about 60 pounds. And I hold it for a long time. Or at my computer, I hold my index finger over the mouse. So what are things we can do? I think one, I said many times, move. And just do it again. Just move. Or even, just wiggle. Two, we get captured, we hold our breath or breathe slow. Allow the abdomen to get bigger when you inhale. And then exhale very slowly. The basic part of many meditation traditions. Inhale slowly. 2, 3. Excuse me. Look away from the screen. Because when I look at the screen, or just do it for a moment. Just look at the screen. Look at all the detail. Really be sure you get it. Look very clear. You missed that. Look more. And when you're looking like that, the eyes converge, the lens tightens, it gives visual stress. The only way the eyes can relax is by looking at the far distance, or close your eyes, that's one, or look at the far distance at trees or whatever. When you look at the far distance, the eyes diverge, relax, the lens flattens. And it's so interesting. When you look at children who are looking at screens day after day, hour after
especially
hour,
really young
that in
children
Singapore,
too. Yeah.
90% of the children will have to wear glasses.
Yeah, it really hurts your retinas too. Well, Erik, it's
Yes.
been so nice to have you online. How can people hear about your book and get in touch with you? I know the book's coming out real shortly. You co-authored other books, but this book is entirely written by you, which is exciting.
The book can be bought probably easiest online, ideally at your own personal bookstore. I think I still want to support that very strongly. There's nothing better than looking at the different books, but that's more difficult today. Buy it at any online retailer, it's available.
Great. Tech
And it's
stress.
coming out, in fact, tomorrow officially, so it's now available. It's quite
that's
reasonable,
exciting.
and I highly recommend it for everyone, for families, for people at the job. It makes no difference. It gives, from our perspective, pragmatic hints and tools to mobilize your health and prevent illness
That's
and exhaustion.
fabulous. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to, hear more about your research, read your blog? You're just like this fountain of such great information.
Well, I appreciate that. The easiest way is I do a blog called Pepperperspective.com. And that's Pepper, not with 2 P's. It's P-E-P-E-R, Pepperperspective.com. Go there. There are many different blogs. They give hard science and pragmatic interventions on a range of topics.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to go home and read a book and turn off my computer tonight, get outside and breathe. And I was very inspired by all the information that you shared with our viewers. And we hope to have you back sometime. And thanks for coming on.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, very nice to meet you. And join us next time for another edition of Macro Magic.